Have you ever looked at an ordinary coin, one that's been sitting in a drawer, tucked away in a jar, or quietly resting in your pocket, and wondered, could this tiny piece of metal actually be worth a fortune? What if I told you that a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar, a coin most people barely notice or even mistake for a quarter, is surrounded by whispers, rumors that some versions could be worth thousands, and in the wildest claims, even $1 million. Sounds dramatic, right? Too good to be true. Well, behind this small, often overlooked coin lies a story filled with controversy, confusion, history, and hidden surprises that might just change the way you look at your change forever. Before you spend that Anthony dollar or toss it back into a jar, stay right here, because today, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood and talked about coins in modern U.S. history, the 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar. And by the time we reach the end, you'll know exactly which versions could hold real value, and which are simply relics of a bold experiment in American currency. Now, most people assume coins from the late 70s aren't worth much. After all, millions were minted, right? But here's where things get interesting. Not every $1,979 is the same. Some have tiny design differences, special striking characteristics, and rare varieties that collectors hunt for like hidden treasure. A few have sold for far beyond their face value, shocking prices that nobody expected when this coin first appeared. So the big question is there truly a version worth $1 million? That's exactly what we're about to uncover. But before we talk numbers, let's talk meaning. Imagine holding a coin that represents not just currency, but a chapter in American history. A coin created to honor a woman who fought her entire life for equality, a pioneer whose voice changed the nation. The Susan B. Anthony dollar wasn't just minted, it was introduced with purpose, passion, and controversy. It symbolized a new era, a moment of justice and progress etched into metal. And yet, despite its powerful meaning, this coin was misunderstood, rejected, and almost forgotten. That's part of what makes it fascinating. The 1979 issue, the first year of this series, carries its own unique story, a mixture of pride, frustration, and mystery. But here's where the collectors really perk up. Because around the coin community, whispers began. Stories of strange die variations, odd strikes, unusual rim spacing, proof-like surfaces, and rare versions that look just slightly different from the rest. And those tiny differences, they can turn an ordinary Anthony dollar into something truly valuable. Now picture this, you're sorting through old change, maybe going through a family coin box passed down through generations. Suddenly you spot the eagle landing on the moon, the stern portrait of Susan B. Anthony, the year 1979 glinting under the light. Could it be one of the special ones? Could you be holding a hidden treasure? That thrill, that spark of possibility, is what collectors live for. The dream that the coin you almost spent on a bus ticket could actually be a rare piece worth hundreds, even thousands. But as exciting as the stories are, not everything you hear is true. Some people swear there's a $1 million Anthony dollar out there, and while rare errors can reach astounding prices, the $1 million Anthony dollar is more legend than fact, fueled by online hype and hopeful treasure seekers. Still, every rumor has a seed of truth. And that's what we're here to explore today. Because this coin isn't just about value, it's about history, symbolism, and one of the most daring moves the U.S. Mint ever made. Whether you're a collector or just curious, the story behind this little coin will surprise you. So don't go anywhere, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, what makes some $1,979 rare, and why this coin, despite its rocky past, continues to command attention decades later. Up next, we'll go back in time to the moment this coin was born, why it was created, what made it controversial, and how a bold tribute to a legendary woman became one of America's most debated coins. Stay tuned, the journey has just begun. To really understand the mystery of the 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar, we need to step back in time. Long before collectors began searching for errors, and long before rumors of rare hidden treasures began spreading. Let's travel to the late 1970s, a time of change in America. Gas lines stretched for blocks. Technology was beginning to evolve. And people across the nation were preparing for a future filled with new ideas, new leaders, and new symbols of progress. But there was a problem, a very practical one. The Eisenhower dollar, which came before the Susan B. Anthony dollar, was simply too big, too heavy, too bulky. People didn't like carrying it, businesses didn't like handling it, and vending machines had difficulty accepting it. So, the U.S. Mint decided it was time for something new, a coin smaller, easier to use, modern in feel, and symbolic of change. But here's where the story takes a powerful turn. Instead of placing a president or founding father on the coin, America chose a woman. Not just any woman, but a fierce fighter for fairness, equality, and the right for every voice to be heard. Susan B. Anthony, a name written in history as a champion of women's rights and the fight for voting equality. This wasn't just currency. This was a statement. A message to the world that America was stepping into a new future, one where women's contributions would be honored in more than speeches and history books. For the first time in U.S. history, a real woman, not a symbolic figure like Lady Liberty, was going to appear on circulating U.S. money. And that decision alone placed this coin into the spotlight before it was even released. The idea was bold. The symbolism powerful. The timing historic. But here's where things got complicated. When the Susan B. Anthony dollar hit circulation in 1979, something unexpected happened, and not in a good way. People picked it up, looked at it, and asked, "Wait, is this a quarter?" Yes. The new dollar coin looked strikingly similar to the 25-cent piece. The size, the color, even the feel in your hand. It created confusion. Vending machines didn't always accept it. Cashiers didn't always recognize it. And instead of being welcomed, it was misunderstood, even rejected. Stores didn't like it. Consumers didn't like it. Banks struggled to move it. A coin created to represent progress and honor quickly found itself sitting in bank vaults, unrequested and unused. And within just a few short years, the Susan B. Anthony dollar faded away from circulation, becoming one of the shortest-lived dollar coins in U.S. history. But here's the twist. Because it failed in the public eye, fewer people paid attention to it. Fewer people saved it. And fewer collectors cared about it at the time. And that very neglect is exactly what created the mystery we have today. Coins that were ignored. Coins that sat untouched for decades. Coins with small differences, minting quirks, little variations that no one paid attention to. Now suddenly becoming the center of attention. And here's where the story connects back to you. Those forgotten coins? Those jars in your home? That old change someone passed down? They might hold something special. Because what started as an idea for progress became a quiet treasure hunt, one fueled not by popularity, but by curiosity, rarity, and the thrill of what might be hidden in plain sight. In the next part, we'll explore the design, the details, symbols, and hidden elements that make this coin unique, and why some collectors inspect them with the eye of a detective searching for clues. Stay right here, because the deeper we go, the more fascinating this story becomes. And trust me, we're just getting warmed up. Now that we've peeled back the curtain on the history of the 1942 Mercury dime, it's time to step even deeper into the story. Because this coin isn't just a piece of currency, it's a riddle cast in silver, a treasure shaped by artistry, symbolism, and whispers from a nation fighting for peace. Hold this coin in your hand and you'll feel it. A strange blend of beauty, power, and mystery. As if every curve, every tiny line, carries a message waiting to be discovered. Let's start with the front. The obverse. A graceful face, not a goddess, not a queen, but a symbol of something far greater, liberty herself. Her face serene yet determined, crowned not with jewels but with wings of freedom, symbolizing free thought, a reminder that the greatest battles of humanity begin in the mind. This isn't just a portrait, it's a promise. A promise of hope, of courage, of a dream America refused to surrender, even as the world trembled with war. Tilt the coin ever so slightly. Look closely at the details. The smooth contours of Liberty's face, the deep shadows carved under her chin, the elegant curls of her hair flowing like a whispering wind. Every curve tells a story. Now turn it over, the reverse, where the mystery deepens. A fasces, a bundle of rods tied around a battle axe, stands boldly in the center. Not a symbol of aggression, but of unity and strength, the message clear. Together, we stand unbreakable. And around it, twined delicately like a dream protecting reality, an olive branch, symbolizing peace. Strength and peace, side by side. A soft warning wrapped in silver. Sometimes peace survives only when backed by courage. Every edge, every symbol, every shadow on this coin is intentional. This isn't just a design. It's a heartbeat frozen in metal. But here's where the whispers grow louder. Some collectors believe there are hidden details in the design. Minuscule hints, almost invisible marks, special strokes in the feathers and branches, that separate ordinary coins from extraordinary fortune. They say a certain twist of metal, a slightly different curve in the olive leaf, a subtle variation in the lettering, could transform a dime into a treasure worth thousands, maybe more. Some even claim only those with sharp eyes, or luck, can spot the difference. So the question becomes, when you look at this coin, do you see a simple 10-cent piece? Or do you see a secret masterpiece? A coded message from the past, waiting for you to unlock its truth? Because the story of the Mercury dime's design is not just about beauty. It is about hidden value, hidden errors, and hidden fortunes disguised in plain sight. And in the next part, we dive exactly into that world. The world of mysterious minting mistakes, rare accidental varieties, and the errors that turn ordinary dimes into legendary treasures. So don't blink. Don't look away. Because the difference between pocket change and life-changing treasure could be as small as one tiny unexpected detail on this very coin. And now, we enter the part of the tale that sends shivers through coin-collecting circles. The part that turns whispers into legends, and legends into breath-holding excitement. Because here's a truth the mint never intended the world to obsess over. Sometimes, even perfection slips. And in those rare, tiny moments so brief they almost never happen, a priceless treasure is born. The 1942 Mercury dime is one of those coins where fate, metal, and machinery crossed paths, and left behind secrets worth more than gold. Let's step inside the mint for a moment. Imagine roaring machines, pounding metal at lightning speed, creating millions of dimes for a nation at war. Pressure, speed, human hands guiding steel dies. One wrong alignment, one microscopic flaw, one misengraved detail, and history changes. Collectors don't just look at this coin. They hunt it. They study every letter, every feather, every curve, searching for the mistakes that slipped past even the sharpest eyes. And the most famous among them, a mistake so significant, so dramatic, that even today it sends chills across auction rooms and whispers through forums and collector clubs worldwide. The 1942/1941 overdate error. A rogue dime where the 1941 date was stamped first, and then 1942 punched over it. A clash of years frozen in silver. A silent reminder that even time itself can overlap. Look closely, near the 2 in the date, and you may see a ghost of the number 1 hiding beneath. Like a shadow trapped under the surface. A hidden past trying to bleed through. These coins don't just appear, they emerge. Like a secret finally breaking free from the silence of history. One found in a dusty attic. One in a jar passed down from a grandfather. One in a flea market box that someone bought for $1 and sold for thousands. But is that the only error? Not even close. There are whispers of double-struck examples. Coins struck twice by mistake. Where Liberty's face looks like a ghostly echo. Talks of die cracks, tiny lightning bolt scars across the surface. Proof the minting dies themselves were under stress. Rumors of off-center strikes, where the design drifts ever so slightly, turning a normal coin into a dramatic minting anomaly. And yes, stories, real, verified stories, of these flawed, unintentional miracles selling for eye-widening amounts at auction. So the hunt intensifies. Collectors examine, magnify, study, and hope. Not for luck, but for destiny. Because hidden inside this 10-cent coin may be the difference between ordinary pocket change and a small silver key to financial wonder. And as these errors continue to surface, sometimes decades after they were minted, the legend of the Mercury dime only grows more electrifying. But stay with me, because the most breathtaking part isn't just seeing these mistakes. It's discovering what they're worth. And trust me, in the next chapter, we talk numbers that don't feel real. Numbers that make hearts race, hands shake, and dreams explode into possibility. Are you ready for the truth behind the money? The value of these coins, the real numbers, comes next. So now we enter the moment that turns curiosity into heartbeat-racing excitement, the part where this quiet little dime, this tiny piece of silver many people once spent without a second thought, suddenly steps into the spotlight as a potential treasure. Because while most coins sit quietly in jars, drawers, and old wooden boxes, a few pieces, just a few, end up rewriting the meaning of value. Most people look at a 1942 Mercury dime and see 10 cents. They think about candy stores, bus fares, old memories of a time when pocket change mattered differently. And yes, a typical worn example, one that passed through thousands of hands, might only be worth a couple of dollars. Maybe enough to buy a cup of tea or a small snack today. And that's the kind of knowledge that fools people. It makes them overlook what could be hiding right under their fingertips. Because the coin world has one golden truth: the ordinary and the extraordinary often look the same at first glance. Once you step into higher grades, coins that somehow survived decades without losing their shine, without being scratched, bent, or rubbed down by time, something interesting happens. The price no longer acts like pocket change. A coin in crisp, uncirculated condition, still glowing like it did the day it left the mint back in 1942, doesn't behave like 10 cents anymore. It climbs. First $1.20, then $1.50, then into the hundreds. Before you know it, that tiny silver circle is worth more than a phone bill, more than a new watch, more than some people earn in a week. And then the story escalates again. Because there are coins, and then there are coins touched by mystery. In the world of Mercury dimes, collectors live for whispers, the stories of coins bearing mistakes the mint never intended. The kind of accidents that turn metal into mythology. A double date. A misaligned strike. A die that clashed with its mate and left ghostly traces. All fascinating, all valuable. But the crown jewel, the one that makes even seasoned collectors lean forward, is the 1942/1941 overdate. A moment frozen in steel, where the mint accidentally engraved 1941 into the die, tried to correct it with 1942, and left a shadow of history hiding beneath the final date. You can see the old year lingering, like a secret whispering through time. That mistake didn't happen on every coin. It didn't happen on every die. It happened on a few. A tiny handful. And those few slipped quietly into the world, disguised as ordinary currency. Those are the coins treasure hunters lose sleep over. When one of those rare errors appears, especially in stunning condition, the bidding floor ignites. Suddenly, what once bought a loaf of bread can buy a new car. Or a year's college tuition. Some have fetched $10, $000, $20, $000, $40, $000, and the most pristine survivors have shattered the $100,000 mark. Let that sink in, a dime worth more than a house, more than a luxury car, more than some people save in a decade. Think of the irony: a coin someone may have dropped on a sidewalk in 1952, brushed off, and put back in their pocket, now commanding a price that could change a person's life. And this leads to a tantalizing question that echoes across forums, collector circles, auction halls, and online whispers. Could there one day be a Mercury dime worth $1 million? Right now, there isn't an officially recorded $1 million sale, not yet. But history has a habit of surprising us. A century ago, people laughed at the idea of a penny selling for 6 figures. Today, it happens. Rare coins break records every year. And all it takes is one discovery, one flawless once-in-a-lifetime piece tucked away in an attic, untouched and unknown, to rewrite the price books forever. Imagine this. Someone right now might have that coin sitting in a dusty envelope. Maybe in a jar inherited from a grandfather. Maybe tucked inside a forgotten tin box under old letters and family photographs. A small, quiet dime that doesn't scream wealth, but holds it silently. Waiting for the right pair of eyes. Waiting for a moment of realization. Picture the feeling, flipping through old change, spotting that wing-crowned Liberty head, turning the coin slowly under the light, and suddenly noticing something unusual in the date. A curve, a shadow, a ghost of a number beneath the real one. That moment when your heart jumps and your breath stops for just a second, because you realize you might not be looking at a coin, you might be holding opportunity, hope, history, freedom in silver form. That's what makes coin collecting magical. Not just the value, but the possibility. The thrill of knowing that treasures don't always glitter in gold bars locked in vaults. Sometimes, they hide quietly in the most ordinary corners of life. In jars. In drawers. In the palm of your hand. And that's why the 1942 Mercury dime continues to fascinate the world. It's not just currency, it's a story, a dream, a reminder that greatness often hides behind humble appearances. A reminder that you never truly know what fortune looks like until you take a closer look. Sometimes, when we talk about rare coins, people assume the winners are always experts, lifelong collectors, museum historians, wealthy hobbyists. But the truth is much more exciting. Some of the greatest numismatic discoveries have been made by ordinary people doing ordinary things on ordinary days. A forgotten jar in the kitchen. A drawer in a desk. A box tucked behind old photo albums. The line between everyday life and extraordinary luck is thinner than most imagine. There are countless stories: a retired man sorting his late father's belongings, a teenager checking coins from a vending machine, a mother emptying her purse while cleaning, and suddenly they find something unbelievable. A coin that changes everything. A moment of disbelief, followed by shaking hands, rapid heartbeat, and that one question: is this real? It's proof that you don't need a treasure map to stumble upon treasure. Sometimes, fate hides value in plain sight, waiting for curiosity to uncover it. And the Mercury dime is exactly that kind of coin. Tiny, elegant, often overlooked, but powerful enough to inspire people to inspect every silver edge they see. It carries history, beauty, and just enough mystery to keep thousands of eyes searching every day. Unlike modern currency printed in massive numbers with predictable precision, these older coins come from a time when striking errors could slip through quietly, unnoticed by the world, until decades later, when collectors eagerly chase their traces. Think about how many hands a single 1942 dime might have passed through. Soldiers returning from the war. Families saving every cent to restart life. Children buying candy from corner stores. Decades later, tucked away as pocket change no one bothered to spend. Each one carries a journey, a silent witness to time. And among them, a few gems exist that almost feel like fate, as if history intentionally left small gifts for those willing to pay attention. And there's something poetic about that, isn't there? A coin created during one of the most dramatic periods in modern history, a time when the world was fighting, nations were rebuilding, and people were holding on to hope, now becoming a beacon of hope itself. A treasure born from struggle, rediscovered by those searching for something meaningful today. Collectors say that coins are time machines, not metal. You aren't just holding silver, you're holding a moment from 1942. A hand-pressed artifact, created with force and precision, then released into a world that would change forever. And if one of those rare overstrike coins lands in your palm, you are holding a mistake that became history, that became value beyond logic. It's almost impossible not to wonder how many more hidden treasures still lie outside auction houses. Maybe sitting right now in a coffee shop cash drawer. Maybe inside a box an elderly person hasn't opened for years. Maybe dropped in a parking lot decades ago, waiting silently in the soil for someone to uncover it. Coins don't expire. They don't fade. They don't stop holding secrets just because time passes. They simply wait. And that possibility, that slim, electrifying chance, is what keeps treasure hunting alive. Not just for experts, but for anyone willing to look twice, or check twice, or believe that value isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes fortune is silent, circular, silver, and covered in time's dust. So the question becomes simple, but thrilling. How many rare Mercury dimes are still out there? How many hands touched them without realizing? How many sit quietly, unknown, until someone finally sees their truth? The reality is that rarity doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It hides in faint markings, tiny details, subtle imperfections. It requires patience, curiosity, and the courage to think, maybe this one is different. That mindset, that curiosity, is what turns ordinary collectors into discoverers. And that's why every time someone finds old coins, every time a family sorting memories pauses over a small silver disc, there's a moment of hesitation, a moment of dreaming. Because what if? What if luck, patience, and history meet at the right second? What if a simple act, picking up a coin, becomes a turning point in someone's life. No matter where you are, no matter how many coins you've seen, the truth remains. The next great discovery might not be sitting in a museum. It might be sitting in someone's home, unnoticed, until today. And that's the magic of this journey. You're not just learning, you're searching with every sentence, imagining with every possibility, becoming part of a chase that has fascinated the world for generations. Because when history, mystery, and hope combine, even something as small as a dime becomes a doorway to wonder. And now we arrive at the moment of truth, the moment where curiosity meets knowledge, where dreams meet reality, and where every viewer watching right now learns something that could be the difference between a regular old coin and a life-changing discovery. Because having a 1942 Mercury dime is exciting, but knowing how to recognize the rare one, that's where the real power begins. Imagine sitting with a handful of coins in front of you. They glimmer softly, untouched for years, maybe decades. You begin to sort through them slowly. Your eyes aren't just looking, they're searching for the faintest clue, the smallest mark, the quiet signature of rarity that only reveals itself to those who know what to look for. Because on this dime, value doesn't scream, it whispers. And the whisper begins at the date. On most coins, the numbers are clear, simple, separate. But on the rare overdate, the legendary 1942 over 1941, something magical happens. A shadow appears beneath the 2, a tiny curved trace that doesn't belong there. The ghost of a 1, the curve of a 4, a faint but undeniable reminder that the coin once bore a different year before the mint pressed history into it a second time. It's subtle. You won't see it unless you're patient. But once you do, your heart will skip a beat. Collectors say, if you find it, you'll know. Not because it's obvious, but because suddenly, the date feels alive. It feels layered, almost like 2 moments in time collapsing into one. That is the treasure you're searching for. And if you spot it, you don't have a dime anymore. You have a story. A piece of minting poetry. A mistake that became a masterpiece. Of course, beauty attracts imitation. And like every coin carrying legend on its back, this one has counterfeits floating in the world. That's why experts always give one simple rule: don't rush, verify. If you ever believe you've found the overdate, treat it like gold. Handle it carefully. Keep it safe. And get it authenticated. PCGS, NGC, ANAX. These are the vault doors of the coin world, the guardians who turn whispers into proof. If your dime passes through their hands and returns in a sealed slab, labeled and certified, its value becomes real, unquestionable, undeniable. But here's a truth most people overlook: not every valuable coin is the overdate. Some 1942 dimes with dramatic minting errors, doubled letters, off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, carry their own thrilling worth. And even without errors, a flawless coin, preserved like time stood still, can command numbers that make jaws drop. The mistake isn't in dreaming. The mistake is in assuming only one path to treasure exists. And that brings us back to one question: the $1 million whisper. Is there a 1942 Mercury dime worth $1 million waiting somewhere? Right now, there is no confirmed sale. But look at history. Look at how rare coins break records year after year. Look at how treasures appear when no one is expecting them. The world has a habit of surprising those who believe, who search, who look one extra second longer than everyone else. So, is it impossible? Or is it simply undiscovered? Maybe right now, someone watching this video has a coin sitting quietly in a drawer, unaware of its secret. Maybe someone inherited a small leather pouch, tossed it aside years ago, never once thinking it could contain something extraordinary. Maybe you walked past treasure your whole life, not because it wasn't there, but because you hadn't learned to see it yet. And that's the magic of this journey. You aren't just learning about a coin, you're opening your eyes to a world where history hides in small circles of metal, where fortune rests in silent corners of ordinary life. You are joining generations of dreamers, explorers, and believers who don't wait for luck, they search for it. So the next time you find an old dime, don't rush past it. Hold it. Look closely. Turn it under light. Let the date speak to you. Let curiosity guide you. Because greatness doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it waits patiently in the palm of your hand. And if you ever do find that rare Mercury dime, whether it's worth hundreds, thousands, or one day $1 million, you won't just have discovered a coin. you will have discovered a story that has lived for decades, waiting for you to finish it. So keep searching, keep wondering, and never stop believing that history still hides treasures, quietly, humbly, beautifully, waiting for the right person to see them.